Hello again, this is Hellcry. Yes, the Y2K guy. And now I'm talking about the most beloved indie RPG, Undertale. We're all familiar with Undertale, so I don't think it would be appropriate for me to sit here and explain what it is. So much has been said about how it handles a lot of difficult concepts and themes, the ambiguous and potentially problematic nature of determination, and how it acts as a means to an end, for better or worse. The need to see people for who they are, rather than what they appear to be. But what outshines these is how convinced the audience is that the point of the game design in Undertale is to criticize the way that gamers interact with games. From critics to theorists to random fans on Twitter, this is the most widely accepted interpretation of what the game design says. Killing monsters bad? Gamers' selfish desires bad. And I think that's so self-centered and shallow. I think it fails to recognize why the narrative would even try to say something like this. What message it's trying to have. So let's break down the major points people make to come to this conclusion. The biggest one I can think of, that the game is purposefully designed bad for one of the routes. I think this is the weakest part of this interpretation. As you know, when it comes to combat, you end it one of two ways. By either showing mercy, or by killing. To show mercy in Undertale is a challenge of figuring out what the random monster wants. From just laughing at their jokes, to complimenting them. Or even to just not bully them. But to kill them is much simpler. You attack by doing a timing minigame, and they attack, which you dodge with bullet hell. And whoever is stronger is the winner. The other side to this is that you'll find some characters have entirely different attack patterns, and you'll have to engage in some situations that change how you perceive combat entirely. Another aspect of how the killing everyone route works is that you need to kill all of the random encounters in each area. This makes it so accidentally killing a monster won't just send you down this route, but that you deliberately search them out to kill them. While I think this is the main element that people say the game is designed to be deliberately worse, I think this more acts as a failsafe for people who would make mistakes. That, and I think it purposefully asks the player to do something that the game is framing as horrible. That said, some of the most challenging and rewarding and frankly well-designed combat is locked behind this path. An uncharitable assumption as to why these conclusions were drawn would be based on how the fandom approached this duality in its story. At the time, when internet personalities would attempt to play the game, the fanbase of Undertale would rise up to harass them, that their interpretation that the story contained was the only right way to play the game, to pressure them into following the correct method of judgment, so that they wouldn't do something wrong. This ironically goes against their entire interpretation of the message of the story. If their belief is that the story casts judgment on the player who dares to take determination to do whatever they feel like doing, and then saying that you need to do things in a specific way removes the player's free will and denies the act of judgment. Now, before I get into how I feel about the story, and what it means to me, I want to ask why. Why would these people be so adamant about the story being such a way? Why would so many of them refuse to go down this route, but still search out information on it? Why would they go to such lengths to attempt to tell people the correct way to experience the game? Shocker, Undertale's biggest secret sauce is its characters. This cast of cute, lovable dorks is what makes the game so obsessively appealing to so many people. And it's all the game is about, from its story to its combat to its music. All of Undertale is about delivering you these charming monsters in a way that you come to understand who they are and why they're here. And each one of them is quickly beloved by its audience, whether it has 80 lines of dialogue or 0. It's about relationships between these characters, and every part of the game's design informs that. And after you become attached to these characters, it becomes hard for its audience to let them go. Whether that's simply seeing the happy end to their tale and possibly never hearing from them again, or going down the Now, with this context, agonizing route of killing all of them. For what? To see what happens?
At least we're better than those sickos that stand around and watch it happen.
The gameplay I mentioned earlier isn't really agonizing or bad in design, truly. It's only with this context of what you're really doing that it becomes truly painful. And what's worse is that you don't even have to do it. You could just be happy with the happy ending you were given. To experience this, you have to choose it. And I feel this is why these people are so adamant about it being played a specific way, because they find this experience of catastrophic curiosity so undeniably moving, and that the game is written to acknowledge this deliberate choice you made makes it hit so much harder to them. There is a running theme throughout the story of Undertale. From the beginning, we're told of a war between the monsters and humans, one which left the monsters forever trapped in the underground. Many of the beloved characters we meet were soldiers in this war and have set out to kill any human that dares to set foot in the underground. And instead of killing them all, the game makes a point to let you know and push you towards sparing each of them. To forgive them for their prejudice against humans. To understand them and have them become understanding of you. Nothing exemplifies this more than Asgore himself, a man who's killed many humans trying to free the monsters from the underground. Or maybe that was his excuse for his uncontrollable anger towards the loss of his son. And when you finally forgive him, the game becomes meta and confronts the player themselves. Asriel can be killed, but cannot be defeated unless you show Flowey and Asriel mercy and literally forgive them. While this seems straightforward, that doesn't really address the quote-unquote genocide route. It's not really possible to do by accident, as I mentioned earlier. And it's funny to me how this path mirrors what Flowey says at the end of the game.
This is all just a game. If you leave the underground satisfied, you'll win the game. If you win, you won't want to play with me anymore. You know, I don't care about destroying this world anymore. After I defeat you and gain total control over the timeline, I just want to reset everything. All your progress, everyone's memories. I'll bring them all back to zero. Then we can do everything all over again. And you know what the best part of this is? You'll do it. And then you'll lose to me again. And again. And again. Because you want a happy ending. Because you love your friends. Because you never give up. I soon realized I didn't feel anything about anyone. My compassion had disappeared. And believe me, it's not like I wasn't trying. I wanted to love someone. I wanted to care about someone. You might not believe this, but I decided it wasn't worth living anymore. Not in a world without love. Not in a world without you. So, I decided to follow in your footsteps. But as I left this mortal coil, no, I thought, I don't want to die. Then, I woke up. Like it was all a bad dream. I'm back in the garden. Back at my save point. Again and again, I brought myself to the edge of death. At any point, I could have let this world continue on without me. But as long as I was determined to live, I could go back. Amazing, isn't it? I was amazed too. At first, I used my power for good. I became friends with everyone. I solved all their problems flawlessly. Their companionship was amusing for a while. As time repeated, people proved themselves predictable. What would this person say if I gave them this? What would they do if I said this to them? Once you know the answer, that's it. That's all they are. It all started because I was curious. Curious what would happen if I killed them. I don't like this, I told myself. I'm just doing this because I have to know what happens. You, of all people, must know how liberating it is to act this way. At least we're better than those sickos that stand around and watch it happen. Those pathetic people that want to see it, but are too weak to do it themselves. I bet someone like that's watching right now, aren't they?
A lot of these things mirror what the player does in each of the different routes. And here's the most important thing to me. At the end of the game, it's not Chara who does this. To put all your nerdy lore reasons aside for a moment, and realize it's your name. You did this. You went down the same path as Azrael, and you killed all the characters in the game. So the only one who's left to forgive you for what you've done is yourself. Now, when I view the game through this lens, that makes the true ending so much more meaningful. That it's not about Azrael and Chara, but the game itself and the player. Which in turn makes the message of the Genocide ending about the player themselves. Flowey's actions, again, paralleling the players, and that if you can forgive the Flowey in the true pacifist ending, then can you forgive yourself for acting the same after the Genocide route? This is why the game ends with the image ruined by your actions. It's asking if you can forgive yourself after what you have done.